So the other day I had a dream, and I don't often look too deep into my dreams, but I couldn't help but just reflect on the dream that had happened and actually learn a lesson from it. You know, after learning about Prelest and St. Paisios saying, hey, don't look too deep into your dreams, I've kind of held back on them. I don't really look at my dreams as much as I used to, but this one just stood out to me. I remember I woke up and I was like, what just happened? What can I learn from it? What was there? And this was the dream, right? So I woke up in my dream and I was late for work. It was 8:30, I started at 9, but I knew I wasn't gonna make it. So I called up my work, I'm like, hey, I'm gonna be late, like, this isn't good, I'm gonna be so late. And I was panicking. So I grabbed my jetpack and I started flying to work. And as I'm flying to work, I keep getting like this gust of wind blowing me back. Like I'm making progress and I get blown back and I call up my work, I'm like, I'm gonna be so late. It's 9 o'clock now, that's the time work started. I'm like, I'm gonna be so late, I'm gonna be so late. Hung up the phone, I'm still jetpacking around, I'm trying to get there, Then wind blows me back again, I enter more panic. It's 9:30 now, I'm late for work. Hey work, I'm late. They're calm about it, but I'm like, I'm late. I'm not gonna be on time. Then I'm jetpacking, and then all of a sudden I just hit another gust of wind, pulls me back. It's like 10 o'clock now, I'm an hour late. And then at one point, I did like a diversion because I was literally hitting a wall that I couldn't get past. So then I do my diversion and then I'm just stuck in the air for a bit and I'm like, work, I'm gonna lose my job. Like, for some reason my girlfriend appeared next to me, I'm gonna lose my job, like this is not good. And then I finally get to the road where my work is and I'm jetpacking down, and I finally arrive at work about 2 hours late and there's no reaction for my lateness. If anything, they say, oh, how you doing? Like, you're right on time, what are you talking about? And I'm like, what? Like, and then all of a sudden this panic just left me. And I was like, oh, I'm at work, like I'm here and there's no consequence. And I woke up from the dream at that moment and I reflected on the dream. I was like, what just happened? It was like 6 in the morning. I was like, what on earth just happened? What was that dream? You know, it wasn't a crazy dream, but it was crazy enough for me to like reflect on it and be like, what just happened? And then later in the day I was reflecting on this dream, and this is sort of the lesson I've taken from the dream, is that God's timing is perfect. You know, in that dream I was trying to get to a destination, which was my work. And I was flying there and I kept getting pushbacks, I kept getting pulled back, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm gonna be so late, like this is so bad, I'm gonna lose what I thought I was gonna get. And then once I got there, it was almost like it was the perfect timing, there was no consequence and I felt at peace. And I kind of relayed this to my real life and how oftentimes I see the destination I wanna get to. I wanna, you know, get the car, get the house, get the family, successful business, income, cash flow. And I can often fall into that worry when a gust of wind pulls me back. Maybe, you know, for example, recently I launched some ads for my business. They haven't been hitting, haven't been generating leads, and I fell into this sort of despair panic of like, is this gonna work? Like, why isn't this working? My friend's getting leads, I'm not getting leads, what's going on? And you know, I had a deal fall through that I was hoping to get, and you know, you can fall into that, oh man, like, you know, I'm feeling a bit bad. And for the past few weeks after relaunching my business, I was kind of falling into my old ways, my old self, seeing God as like a genie. You know, oh God, grant me the blessings, can you grant me the direction so I can have a successful business, And just praying for things of the world, praying for my own fleshly desires, my own success, my own things. And I was in a catechism class the other week and I was talking to the priest about the prayer book, because he mentioned that in the week before, you know, the reason we have a prayer book is all about obedience. It's about praying not from our will, but from, you know, the will of God, and those prayers in the prayer book are inspired by the will of God by the saints. And it made me start thinking, I was like, well, that's really interesting. I didn't know that's why we had a prayer book. I thought we had a prayer book just, you know, it's a prayer book, you can read it if you want and then do your own prayers. But then that had me thinking. And then last week I was in my catechism class and I asked him, because I was like, hey man, what do you think of freestyle prayers? Because I've been praying for the material things and I find myself falling into this panic and this is worry. I almost feel like I'm praying from worry. Almost like I don't trust that I'm gonna get there. Do you think I should still do freestyle prayers? And he went, well, no, not really. If you're using God as like a way of material gain, like you're not approaching God in the right way. You're not even really surrendering your will in that sense. You're not trusting in God. And I've reflected on that. I was like, wow, like it felt like almost a weight had been lifted off my shoulders, because that whole week I was panicking. That whole week I was in despair. That whole week I had this underlying anxiety and I was constantly just praying for what I didn't have. Whereas once he told me that, it almost felt like I was free from this worry, because it allowed me to put my trust back in God. And it made me also realize that, you know what, my sight had actually been taken off the things from above, but rather I was focusing on things of the world. And that was affecting how I was approaching Christ, my feelings toward Christ, and just overall my experience with Christ, because I wasn't focusing on the things that matter. I wasn't focusing on his will. I was rather trying to focus on my will and trying to persuade God to give me what I want. But you know, we need to trust in God, that he has a perfect will for us. And it's interesting because a few weeks ago, even a month ago, I wasn't running my business. I, by the grace of God, had some great things happen to me. You know, I got a client without trying. I got a job just by the grace of God. And in that time, like, I was just filled with gratitude. I wasn't even asking for more. I was just saying how blessed I felt and how much gratitude I had towards God for the things I had. But as soon as I started my business again, I fell into that trap of wanting more, because, you know, when you start a business, it's a client-based business. You want the clients, you want to get the 750 retainer, £1,000 retainer, and you're like praying for that stuff because it is, you're looking for more. But doing so, I was falling back into that Jacob of 2023. That Jacob of 2023 who was in despair, who was so worried, who wasn't focused on the goodness of Christ, but rather on his own desires. And fortunately, by the grace of God, by going to the Vespers, by going to the Catechism, it woke me up to that. And I almost feel a bit more free now. I've almost been able to surrender a little bit more. You know, the ads haven't been going as well as I thought, but you know, it is what it is. I've launched some new ads yesterday, and I trust in the Lord to provide what I need, not what I want. So if he believes that, hey, Jacob, it's time for you to have a successful business for the next 3 months, I'm gonna bless you with it. If not, I understand, and he probably wants me to go somewhere else. And as hard as that can be for me to admit, honestly, that, you know, maybe it won't go how I plan, but I have to trust in the plan of God because he's never let me down before. You know, I think we can often look at where we are now and be like, oh man, is God really gonna pull through? But what I like to do now is look back on the past few years and just think about the lowest of the lows that I've hit, the times of despair, but how God's delivered me from those, and how God's never let me down. Although I might have had a month of toughness and hardship and worry and anxiety and stress, what followed that was a time of blessings, a time of peace by the grace of God. And that's how I need to remember these times of struggle. You know, I might be struggling right now. I might be a bit anxious. I might be praying a bit wrong. I might be approaching God in the wrong way. But I trust in God to deliver me from this by the grace of his love, because he's done it to me before. And he's done it to the saints, and he does it to the people who I love, who I know in person. You know, Piers, who just got married. You know, he was going through a struggle 2 years ago, 3 years ago, but the Lord delivered him. And, you know, I sent him Psalms 22, where it says, you know,
all they that see me laugh me to scorn. They shoot out the lip, they shake the head, saying, he trusted on the Lord that he would deliver him. Let him deliver him, seeing he delighted in him.
And I said to him, I was like, man, you know, that's probably what you were going through. You know, when I first met you, you trusted in God so much, and I'm sure you had those critiques come to you where they're like, oh, you're trusting in the Lord too much. Come on, man, come on, like, you know, because he is truly a guy that he will just be like, the Lord's gonna deliver me. The Lord, I trust in the Lord. And it's like, you know, he put so much faith in the Lord. I'm sure he got mocked, and he admitted that he did. But the Lord delivered him, and he allowed him the desires of his heart, which is marriage. Glory to God. So that's the trust we need to approach God with, that just because we're not the destination we want to be at now doesn't mean God's not going to deliver us to there. We might have to go through some hardships. The wind might blow us back a little bit, but don't despair, don't worry. As hard as it can be, you know, I'm still going to worry. Just because I've come to this realization doesn't mean worry is going to leave my life, but it's about bringing yourself back to Christ and his goodness and his grace and in thanksgiving, rather than falling into the slippery slope, which is wanting, lack. Give me this, God, give me this. But realizing you're falling, looking at God and giving him the praise, giving him the glory that he deserves. Because I believe that's the word that stands out to me the most in the Bible when I read it, is thanksgiving. Thanksgiving. Praise be to the Lord. That's what stands out to me in the Bible. And I think gratitude is just such a great thing, a gift from God. That is the will of God for us in Christ Jesus. So thanksgiving is a powerful thing. Don't forget it. Be grateful, and the Lord will deliver you from any situation that you're in for as long as you trust in him. Glory be to the Lord, and have a great day.